I want to just thank everyone here for making time in your busy life of activities and things you want to do that you put first in your plan to be here in a group meditation, to have this practice together. What a gift it is we give ourselves, we give others around us, and we give to the world. This is truly what brings us a sense of fulfillment and happiness in life. This work we're doing here right now, just spreading in our energy field an energy of random acts of kindness, of compassion and virtue and love. This is the magic ingredient that unites people, that unites families, that unites countries and the world. And as we see today in the world, how needed this service is. It's not the place for divide and conquer and be separate and find everybody's differences. It's coming together and uniting on something that's calling us all to come together and awaken that seed of pure consciousness within us. Let it heal ourselves and the world. So I want to thank you so much for making this effort to be here and do this work. Those songs go with what our service will be today on Karma Yoga, the path of action and selfless service. And before we start our service, I'd like to start it with this intent or prayer as an offering to this day and to the work we do. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there's suffering, may I act with compassion and sow with love. Where there is injury, may I act with pardon. Where there is darkness, may I act in my life and in my meditations to spread light. And where there is sadness, may I embrace the virtue of joy around that sadness. For it is giving that we receive. It is pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is the dying of the ego within us that we are born to eternal life. Mother Teresa was such an exemplar of selfless service, and her philosophy was, true service is not merely an external act, but stems from a heart filled with love and compassion. By offering our hands to serve others, we can transform lives and nurture a more compassionate world. And what a wonderful work that is. So where do you start? Start by doing what is necessary, then what is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. Francis of Assisi. So to many people that do the work of service and give of their time and life force, I would say the first place to start is by taking care of our own selves, our own healing of our bodies and minds, to allow that river of divine life force to come into us and work through us as we give of our service, to stay balanced in our body and mind, and to learn the techniques of energizing every cell of our bodies with the power of life force, the abundance of energy that is holding this entire universe together and is in every cell of our body. To learn how to draw that energy in and empower ourselves to energize our bodies through techniques of meditation and through practices that bring forth that ability to energize the cells of our bodies, to do the work we came here to do, and to do it with joy and happiness. So I take a moment now, and just before our service, let us just take a inhaling breath in this amazing universe of oxygen. And as we inhale, tense your entire body, and knowing that you're transforming that oxygen into life force, and then we let it move out. So we're moving energy through our bodies. Let's do it 2 times, please. Inhale. And exhale. Feel it. Move the energy as light workers. Inhale. Tense the entire body. And release. Just feel how that makes you feel and how it opens up the channels within you to truly be an instrument for this energy of love and life and virtue to move through us. I'd like to read a quote from Norman Paulsen, our founder of Sunburst. You may think that what you are doing every day is insignificant and means nothing. But as you practice selfless service, make your work an active meditation. You will receive divine, renewable, creative life force through every cell of your body. Allow the divine to work through you each conscious moment of every day, and watch your actions become instruments of creation, regeneration, and healing to yourself and all those around you. Humble servants of God have been seen miraculous power at work to build things for the betterment of all humankind. And the Bhagavad Gita states, do what you do, but offer the fruits of it to me, and see me in all things. And the Christ consciousness in Jesus spoke, what you have done for the least of your brothers and sisters, you have done unto me. They're all speaking the same theme, the same language of selfless service that takes on many different forms. Karma yoga. So how do we practice karma yoga? What is selfless service? It's just being ready and willing to do selfless service. It must come from the willingness of your heart and to be willing and available at that moment. You see this a lot in times of emergencies. If a child is about ready to fall off a chair, you don't think about what reward you're going to get if you go pick that kid up. You're going to just move immediately. There's something in us all that responds to helping each other. And you see this on small scales and you see it in large scales. When there's really, things that have hurt a lot of people through terrorist attacks, which we probably all can remember 22 years ago as of tomorrow. Earthquakes that are happening and suffering people, fires, it's happening all over, but what an opportunity that you just see people immediately just coming to be of service. That is action. They're doing something for that moment of karma yoga, selfless service. And it's important in that your motion of what you're doing is not watching your motive. Are you doing something thinking you're going to get something out of it? Are you doing it for the pure virtue of service, which is our true nature? It can't help but give. And the more you tap into it, it's a fountain of energy that wants to give. And to do your best in whatever you're doing, either by something you've initiated on your own where the action was needed, or there's also places of volunteer. There's also selfless service, where you do your best at whatever job is in front of you, and to fully express God as the doer through your work, being present. Make all you do an offering. When you act without desire for the fruits of your actions, this is selfless service. The Bhagavad Gita, and I bring this Bhagavad Gita up a few times because so much of that story is on karma and karma yoga, because they saw it was such an essential part of the path of awakening to our true nature. And it states, "Do what you do, but offer the fruits of it to me. See me in all things." I think I said that. And the other part of karma yoga and selfless service, and this is a difficult one, but not to be attached to the outcome of your actions. To do the best you can, give it all you've got. Do the work without attachment to the outcome, meaning accept what comes with grace, whether it's success or it didn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. Because there's lessons in all that comes to us in work and service. And in the Gita it states, "You will thus attain inner peace in the mind in the midst of action. This evenness of mind is the essence of yoga or divine union." So in practicing this beautiful practice of karma yoga, selfless service, you just engage yourself in what is needed, in what is asked. And it's a wonderful work to keep the ego at bay. It helps dilute or keep the ego more of a servant of the pure nature of our true self, instead of trying to be the master of our work. And that is super important to help us in these works of doing selfless service. It is helping us. You can't really say you want to dissolve the ego, which is what has been said 2 times, because the ego too is part of the soul that is the shadow of the soul. It has to also make its transformation and become one with the soul. But it doesn't stay in center. It becomes a servant. And it also helps ourselves in the detachment from action that will dissolve our own karmic seeds and quickens the paying of our own karmic debts. So in this practice, it helps us to clarify what is important in our life, just like being here today. It helps us put that in focus, and it helps give us a guide of how to walk this path. I'd like to give a quick story of Karma Yoga and not getting attached to it, to your actions. Was Norm, when he was in Paramahansa Yogananda's monastery, he was assigned to do a job of just hauling, doing so much brushwork down the whole hill of where the monastery was. And he was doing it by himself, and it was very difficult, a lot of work to do. And when he was almost finished in the afternoon, there was another monk that came by and offered to help. And Norm was so happy to get some help, even though it was almost completed. So he was doing the work, and Norm took off and moved a lot of the brush to wherever he was going to take it, and was gone for a while. And as he was coming back, he saw Paramahansa Yogananda coming up the road with this other monk in the car and saying that, look at the wonderful work that this monk did. And of course, both monks tried to explain it, but it didn't come out. So Norm realized that it wasn't necessary to explain anything, because this was his lesson in don't get attached to your work. Do it because you're doing it for God. You're doing it for your own karmic, cleansing your own karmic debts. You don't need to know who did that work. And that was a lesson that he remembered and wrote in his book as an important lesson for himself and probably for others too. So before we go into our meditation, I'd like to read one other way that Karma Yoga works. And because everything on the outside of working and doing of service is also doing something within us, working within us. It's also an action to meditate. Meditating, especially with the Kriya Yoga, that if people that have received that, it is a work of action. It is a Karma Yoga in itself. And I'd like to read this from Paramahansa Yogananda's book of God Talks with Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. The words Karma Yoga, the path of work or activity, have been used in this stanza to signify those proper activities that unite the soul with spirit. Whenever the good worldly person or the meditative spiritual person keeps his senses under control and harnesses his wisdom-guided desire to the actions, he moves in the proper path of activity. All God-leading activity is Karma Yoga. A life of moral discipline is a quicker way to God. The meditative life is the fastest way to God. Meditation may seem to be a withdrawal from activity because it demands from the beginner an absence of bodily movement. But deep meditation is intense mental activity, the highest form of action. Through the divine science of Kriya Yoga, the advanced yogi is able to withdraw his mind from the physical senses and direct their subtle astral powers to the inner activities of soul-freeing work. Such a spiritual specialist performs the true God-uniting activity of karma yoga. This is the highest path of karma or action. It leads directly to God. Many preach the kingdom of God. Yogis find it within. And then there's this one quote with it I'd like to read, and it's by Meister Eckhart, who was a 14th century Dominican monk. If the mind is fixed on God and continues so, the senses will obey it. It is like hanging a needle on a magnet, and then another needle onto that needle, and so on. As long as the first needle clings to the magnet, the rest will hang on to it. But if the first drops off, it will lose the rest. And so as long as the mind is firmly fixed on God, the senses will obey it. But when the mind drops away from God, the senses drop off from the mind and are unruly. So it gives you, the meditation is an act of karma yoga by drawing our intention in meditation to stay present here. And like the magnet, if the mind begins to wander, the senses take off. So with that, we are going to go into our about 15-minute quiet meditation, and Nicole will bring us into it with the bowls. in this quiet time of meditation, we can experience the inner action of karma yoga. I was just thinking a moment ago that Sunburst is almost 55 years old from its inception to this very day today. Coming up in January, it'll be 55 years that Sunburst has when it started. And it definitely, from then to this moment now, has embraced karma yoga. Selfless service is what truly has kept this experience together. It has kept us the feeling of community by everyone that participates in this activity. It creates a sense of connectedness. It brings forth a joy, a purpose. It does something inside us all with the working of selfless service. It looks like work and lots of work, but it's not work. It's the attitude of offering and giving and doing it for the greater good of a whole. It is working outwardly as it works inwardly. And the selfless is meaning without the ego. So there's no ego self there. It's just draws in, it creates the emergence of our true nature, the pure self, to come forth in our works. And it helps the awakening of our soul's union with God, that we're all searching for and wanting. It's right here in this powerful work of selfless service, karma yoga. And it goes on to this very day today. In this room, we're all acting, we're doing our work of service by meditating together, by helping ourselves, we're also helping the world. And for the technicians in the room, the audio, the musicians, and the ministers, this is all our gift of tithing, of volunteer, our work for keeping this energy going. This service, it's not a chore, it's a gift to give. And that's the power of karma yoga. It helps us grow. It helps us dissolve the ego out of the way, stop thinking of our little self and all the things we want to do and our little problems and our little world. It lets that all put aside, and it's now taken on a work, such a greater work for the whole. And it's so powerful. And this is what the world so needs today in this practice. The peace it brings and the sense of belongingness. It's pretty much integral in many religious and spiritual paths. This path of selfless service, karma yoga. And I'd like to end in reading one other passage from Patty Paulsen. Selfless service is seeing God as the doer in your activities and thoughts. Your work will become a portrait of your own pure self, the reflection of God within your soul. Through meditation and spiritual practice, this presence will come forth to do works of charity, unselfishly giving with no thoughts of reward. As you make your work and active meditation, you will receive renewable creative life force through every cell of your body. Allow God to work through you each day and watch your actions become instruments of healing to those around you and onto yourself. So with that, I'd like to close this service in utmost gratitude for all the practitioners of selfless service and karma yoga.
Help me to see what you want me to see. Help me to be your hands. Help me to hear what you want me to hear. Help me to be your hands. Help these hands to build a wonderful new world of peace and harmony. Help these hands to build a world that is filled with love and beauty. Help me to feel compassion and empathy. Help me to be your hands, striving for love and bliss. Let my goal be this. Help me to be your hands. Help these hands to make the world a better place for all to live side by side. Help these hands to shape a peaceful place for our spirits to reside. Help me to know and share your love. Help me to be your hand. Help me to be the person I should be. Help me to be your